We'll begin in a couple of minutes. Am I on? Good morning. We'll be ready in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's going to end up being on that screen.
You know,
And then, yes,
I said a little prayer for us.
I'm not worried about this. Well,
See, I keep all this close to my heart. I had it in my coat.
so we're,
When you gave us.
okay, so we're going to sit down. I want to show you and John who I put on the committee. Then I'll be ready to get it out.
I may be short, but I got it.
I'm not worried.
No, it's good.
thanks, sir. I don't think we're going through that. I'm going to sit.
Okay. Sure. I'd sit on the very end. Then, like at the end, then we can pull you forward from you. Good morning, by the way. Good morning, everyone. We're ready to start our meeting. We generally open our meeting with a brief meditation here, and so I'm going to call on Representative Campbell if he will start off our day.
Father, we just thank you for the privilege of us coming and being able to represent the people. And we lift this meeting up and just pray your hand on it, pray your guidance, and just thank you for this opportunity. We pray blessing on this meeting that we do it in your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. So the first of every session, we begin by introducing our committee members to you. So I will start at the very end, and we have some new members, so we welcome them as well. But what you do is just punch your button number, tell us your name, your district, and where you're from. And you have more news for us if you'll share that. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Kimberly New. I'm from District 64, which is Douglas County, Paulding County. And I had a grandbaby this past weekend. The second grandbaby I've had in January. So she was unexpected. She was due in April, so there was a little bit of an emergency situation. Everybody's doing good. Mom's home now. Baby's going to have to stay in the hospital probably till April, which is her due date. But she was just too excited. She wanted to get out here and meet everybody. So I have another grandbaby due in June. And we've talked to that mom and said, don't do anything until June. Let's make sure that one comes in June. But thank you. It's an honor to be here, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Welcome. And then is 28.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Derek McCollum. I'm District 30, which is South Hall and a small portion of Gwinnett. I'm a retired firefighter, and so I'm just great honored to be here and really happy to be on Natural Resources.
Thank you. Welcome. 27.
Excuse me, I'm Joe Campbell. I'm District 171, very southwest Georgia, below Albany. We say Albany, but y'all say Albany sometimes. So anyway, below Albany and Mitchell County, Decatur, Bainbridge, on down to the Florida line. Very heavy agricultural, which is what I came out of, the peanut business for many years. And I'm honored to be here also.
Thank you. Number 26.
David Huddleston, District 72, which consists of Carroll, Heard, and Troup County in the West Georgia area. I'm a retired EMC of 36 years and a full-time farmer of poultry, cattle, hay, and honeybees. And it's an honor to be here, Madam Chairman.
I'm trying to put cattle, hay, and honeybees together, but
It works well.
okay. Thank you. Number 25.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, everyone else. Rick Townsend from the Golden Isles, St. Simons, Brunswick, Blythe Island, Sea Island, that area. Love the coast. Honored to be here. I'm really excited about it. Our community, of course, is really engaged in natural resources, and thank you for letting me serve.
Thank you. 24.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. I'm Lisa Hagan. I serve House District 156, which is 6 counties in South Georgia between Macon and Savannah.
Thank you. 23.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. I'm Noah Williams, House District 148, Crisp, Pulaski, Wilcox, a portion of Ben Hill, and a portion of South and Central Houston. I'm delighted to serve on Natural Resources, my 5th year, and thank you very much.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Vance Smith. I come from Harris County, represent most of Harris, part of Muskogee Columbus, and LaGrange Troop County, and I live on the Chattahoochee, and it's an honor to serve with you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I'm Lynn Smith. I'm from Noonan. I had House District 70, which is a large part of Coweta and a small part of Carroll County. I've served for several years, and it's always an honor to serve and to be chair of this committee. I think I have number 18 next. If you'll punch your button when it's your next turn, but go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Jesse Petrie. I represent District 166, which is the best part of the most beautiful part of Georgia, and the most beautiful part of the most beautiful part of Georgia. I'm going to argue with Rick down there. But I represent Chatham and Bryan County on the Georgia coast, outside of Savannah, and glad to be here.
Thank you. I think we might just generally categorize the state of Georgia as God's country and end the debate. So, number 17.
Clay Perkle. I am from South Georgia, Turner, Irwin, Tift, and Coffee counties. I do farm for a living. I make my living preserving and cherishing the natural resources that we have, interested in making sure those are protected.
Thank you. 16.
Good morning, Marcus Wiedauer from District 121, live in Watkinsville. I serve most of Oconee County and a portion of Clark.
Thank you. Number 15.
I'm Debbie Buckner. I represent part of Columbus, Fort Benning, all of Talbot, part of Meriwether, including Warm Springs, and Troop. And it's a pleasure to serve on the Natural Resources Committee yet again.
Thank you. Number 15, just arrived.
14.
14, all right.
Good morning, everybody. I am State Representative Deborah Bazemore, and I represent District 69 now, which is a portion of Fulton and Fayette County, and it sits next to the busiest airport in the world.
Thank you. We'll get back to, let's go ahead and do our leg council since you're there. And welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm David Berry. I work in Office of Legislative Counsel. I work on natural resources, ag, game and fish, anything environmental related on both House and Senate side.
Thank you and welcome. And then we go to the front row. Representative Deloach, if you'll hit your button for me. Okay.
I'm Buddy Deloach. I represent Georgia House District 167, all of McIntosh and Long County, parts of Glenn, Liberty, and Wayne. And for those of you that think you live in a beautiful place, I would invite you to come sit on my dock overlooking the Sapelo Sound.
Actually, so from my area of the country, I love all of Georgia, but there's nothing like a sunset over the marsh and deep water out there. So, all right, and then number 7.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Representative Viola Davis, serving House District 87, located in DeKalb County, primarily in Tucker, Stone Mountain, and Pine Lake. And I really do love being on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And number 23 might be a rebuttal here. Let's see.
Madam Chairman, I would like to direct a question to my esteemed colleague, the Chairman of Ethics. Is he telling us that we have an open invitation to come sit on his porch and fish on his back porch? Is that what he's telling us?
Well, only if he adds a song from Otis Redding. I think we'll all be there after that. And so I see a competition brewing here, but what we're going, all right, last one, number 11. What does one, oh?
Some do have that invitation, and you're certainly one of those. I forgot to mention, Madam Chair, you know this, but some don't. I'm now beginning my 13th year on this committee, having served in a previous time.
Well, Representative Deloach, you've been well maintained. You might have been resurrected, but we're welcome to have you here. That does not count as an ethics violation. Sorry. Okay, you've met our committee, so hang on, everybody. But so we do not have in our folders our rules, but since we're not taking up any activity before the committee. We will begin with our presentation from DNR. We have both DNR and EPD here, and while Commissioner Williams is coming up, this first part of every first session, we spend some time learning the organizations of which we consider legislation for. So these people will be available to you for questions. They're here to inform and to help. So go ahead, Commissioner, and welcome. And you had a good weekend for wildlife. Congratulations on that. Liz.
But, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Mark Williams, former representative from District 178, Stephen Meeks' district now, and former member of the best committee in state government, House Natural Resources. So with that buttering up, I'll begin. I sort of tell a story. First off, let me introduce some folks with me. I have Walter Rabin, Deputy Commissioner, with me, and I have Donald Kirkland, our Director of Public Affairs. Donald, right here behind me there, and then I'll be introducing our division directors a little later, but about 14 years ago in Kansas deer hunting, I get a call from Governor-elect Nathan Deal and asked me to do this job. So I get back home, and those of you that have introduced yourself from the coast know what a burn barrel is out back by the shop. Standing around with my friends, and I get two questions from them after I tell them the news. The first one is, can I get a gator tag? And that'll tell you a little bit about my buddies, but they didn't care about the job. But the second one was quite telling because they said, well, Mark, when you get your badge and your gun? And I thought about that, and I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to get a badge and a gun, which I don't. But it told me something, that the general public usually associates us with our law enforcement. And they are great. They're the oldest law enforcement, state-sponsored law enforcement agency in our state, and do a great job. But DNR is much bigger than that. We have about 1,600 employees on my side of the house, and then Director Dunn will talk about EPD. And our game wardens make up about 205 of those. So we're going to hear from Game Warden, our Colonel Bernard, first, but I want this morning, I hope, for the new members and a refresher for some of the older members about the depth and breadth of which our agency operates in around this state. Most every Georgian, when they wake up in the morning, if they breathe oxygen and drink water or go outside, has something to do. Our agency affects them on a 24-hour, 365-day calendar. So with that, I'll start by introducing our great colonel of our game wardens, Colonel Thomas Bernard.
Well, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. He did say that we've been around since 1911. I just want to clarify that I was not one of the original game wardens. Even though I may look like it, I've been around just for a little while. But as you see in your handout and your slide there, we are the oldest state law enforcement agency, founded in 1911. And I always say that we, DNR as a whole, when you look at us across the divisions, that we provide that key component in Georgia's quality of life. When you think about that, from the air that we breathe, our water, everything around us, DNR plays a strong part in that. So the Law Enforcement Division, our headquarters is based out of Social Circle, Georgia, and we're split up into what's called 6 regions. And each region has as a captain that's over that region. It's over our uniformed officers, and then our investigative unit and other special operations is housed there at the headquarters office. So our mission and vision, and this is important, we always remind our folks, our cadets as they come through, we are the only agency that does what we do. I'll call that a standalone agency. If we don't take care of our mission and vision each and every day, then who will, right, when you think about that? So our mission is to conserve our natural resources and then obviously provide that public safety to the folks that enjoy that each and every day, whether it's in the woods, waterways, on our state parks, wherever that might be. And then our vision, looking forward down the road, we obviously want to conserve that for our future generations to come, right? We want that, what we have today, to make sure that it's there 50, 100 years from now, correct? Our goals, this is important. We go over this every year with our folks. There are 3 overarching goals, and that's conservation, law enforcement. As I said before, if we don't do that, no one else will. Education, marketing, and then community involvement. And I drive this point home constantly with our folks, and you'll see in just a minute how important that is that collectively, our community along with us, we can do great things. We're good at what we do, but once the community is engaged with us and we hear from all of our partners, our citizens, our legislative body here, we can do great things when we pull all together in the same direction. And then training and recruitment and retention of our folks, that's extremely important. We have a very tough hiring process, and we do that for a reason, because we're looking for the cream of the crop, and then obviously we want to train them in the right way. And we also want to retain that investment. It cost me $150,000 to put one through our program. So right out the gate, that's a huge investment. And our citizens expect that out of our folks when they show up, that they're going to get the best there is in state law enforcement. So these are our core duties, as you see. And we are the only full-service conservation police agency in the nation. And I think that says a lot about our leadership, the commissioner. We do a lot of things, not just game warden related, because I want our folks to be that MacGyver, if you will. And when I say that to the new recruits, they don't even know what that means, so it dates me. But I want our folks to be able to roll up and handle whatever that is. And as a taxpayer and a father of a daughter who is as a police officer, you know, I expect that out of someone in a uniform that can just handle that situation, no matter how easy or how hard. But you look at what we do from hunting, fishing, and boating, and we run a lot of complex search and rescue missions across this state, 396 a year. And that can be from a single day to multiple days to weeks to months, looking for lost people across this great state on our waterways and in those woodland environments. And then the hunter education and boating education piece in what we just call an I&E program. So we push this out to make sure our folks are in our schools, talking to the first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up through high school, talking about what we do for DNR as a whole, to put that in them so they'll understand the importance of our natural resources. This is just an example right here that just occurred, what was called Buffalo Swamp. Some of you who are from the coast, this is a 26-mile area, a very unforgiving environment. Individual calls 911. You can hear that he is in the water as he's walking. We lose cell phone service. Temperatures are dropping below freezing. So we know he's wet, we know he's cold. We're dumping a lot of resources from ATVs, search teams, manpower, aviation, flew, night and day. And if you looked at, you plug all those factors in, his chance of survival was less than 10% after that first night. But our folks didn't give up. They kept pushing. And actually on the third day, as we were coming up the Altamaha River, high in a cypress tree was this man trying to flag us down, but he was so hypothermic, he couldn't hardly move. They had to climb up there and get him down and get him to the hospital. But it's just great work, right? Bringing somebody back from the brink of death. And that's all of our folks plugging in together. Tornado response. There's a picture up there. Commissioner Williams is right in the middle of that. Sometimes he's the first to get there. So if you remember, just January the 12th on that particular night, we had all of these tornadoes, 10 actually confirmed across this state. Griffin hit the hardest with the EF3. Our folks immediately respond. We pulled many people out of structures that were collapsed. One individual on Lake Jackson, a Vietnam vet that was on oxygen, no power, couldn't even get to the house because of the trees that were down, so they launched a patrol boat at 2 o'clock in the morning. We're able to access it that way and get him to the hospital for needed time. And then our debris removal teams come in that next morning and begin clearing the roads, white line to white line, to open them up. And that's us, Parks, and WRD coming together as one team, making that happen, because we all know that getting power back on is critical to making folks get back, that first step back into recovering from such a tragic event there. So great work by everybody involved. For those of you on the coast, this is just an example. We had a Wilmington River boat crash. We are the standalone agency for boat crashes and drownings. This one was a 5-person fatality. It's now waiting on trial there in Chatham County. We work 102 boat crashes a year, and we had 23 fatalities and 57 drowning recoveries. And a lot of those drowning recoveries, again, will last from a couple hours, and they may last for weeks before we can find the individual. Crime suppression detail. We have been here in Atlanta assisting Atlanta PD and the State Patrol since its inception, and we continue to do that. And you can see the running total on the stolen vehicle value, over 11 million there, and a lot of the key points there, and that's a lot of folks with driving erratically, but at the same time they're putting everybody in harm's way, and so our folks do a great job on that. Our Special Operations Group, these are 40 highly trained individuals, and they're all young. I'm a little too old to hang with them because there is a physical fitness piece that I get reminded of. I just can't run as fast as I used to. But now this group is, as you see the picture there, they're highly trained along with our K-9 unit. We assisted this past 2 weeks ago there with the Atlanta Public Safety Training Complex. And our aviation unit, K-9, our Special Operation Group, was in there along with State Patrol as we cleared that area. And I'll just say this, the relationship that we have now with Atlanta PD and Chief Sherabaum and Mayor Dickens is just excellent. It's really, really good to see that. It's a good breath of fresh air. Our staffing levels, currently we're at 183. Thank you for the additional monies last year. We were able to hire an additional 17 folks, and I tell you, that means a lot in today's police environment to get that additional funding. I want to say thank you for the commissioner and this legislative body and the governor for putting that money in there, and we're finding some good people to go to work for us across this state. So after that, we'll have a little over 200 out across this state. The next slide will show you just where we're at, filling our gaps, and we're still currently working on that. That's where, in the green, that's where the new hires will go. And we have a little bit of work to do, but we're actively recruiting, and we're looking for a bigger class this year. That's all I have.
You want to take questions?
No, we'll just do presentations today so we can get to everyone. But thank you. And what you do have decided is very personal. You show up when the state needs you, so we thank you for that. And while we're waiting for the next presentation, the rules are now at your place, and as soon as we're through with the second presentation, we'll review those. But in the meantime, now that Elise is back, I have David Hartman, who's my budget policy analyst, Nicole Chappelle in the back, who's our admin assistant, Elise Wade, who assists our admin assistant, and Mariah Graves, who is our intern. So please join me in welcoming all of these people, including Dave Berry, to the team. Thank you. So we're ready for next. Hey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Jeff Cowan. I'm the Director of Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites Division for DNR, and I appreciate the opportunity to give you an overview of the beautiful state parks and historic sites we have in the state. We have 48 state parks, 15 state historic sites, and over 86,000 acres we manage. We have 8 golf courses, 4 lodges. We have 11 partner sites, a city or county that operates, 428 cottages, 41 campgrounds with a lot of camping, over 900 miles of hiking, biking, nature, paddling, and equestrian trails as well. And our mission is to protect our state's natural beauty and historic integrity while providing opportunities for public enjoyment and education in the state. Our economic impact is we had over 14.2 million visitors that brought an economic impact of over $1.5 billion in the state and supported over 12,000 local jobs. And I know y'all are having to turn around to see this, but I got some great pictures. We've got Watson Mill, Wormslow in some of y'all's districts, also Tallulah Gorge there. So there's a lot of great pictures, so I think y'all have the opportunity to look at the PowerPoint later. Our accommodations, we have all kind of accommodations. Like I said, 428 cottages at 37 parks, a lot of varieties. Many are dog friendly. Campsites, over 2,600 campsites at 46 parks, about 2,400 RV or tent. We even have paddle-in sites down in Adel, Georgia. You can paddle across and camp on an island. We have 162 walk-in. We have a lot of backcountry sites as well. Unique cabins, we have cabins on stilts at Skidaway, or camper cabins at Skidaway. We have cabins on stilts at Fort McAllister. We have CCC cabins at both Vogel and FDR, and this is the 90th year anniversary of the CCC, so it's a big deal right now. In the pictured here, we got a bunch. We're getting into yurts. We got Red Top Mountain. We got some new yurts. We're building some new yurts at Skidaway. We got this is a cottage on stilts at Fort McAllister. This is inside of some of the brand new cabins at Tugelo. And then on the bottom left is a recently renovated cabin at Black Rock Mountain State Park in Clayton. And then there's an aerial view of Unicoi State Park Lodge, and then the new campground at Red Top Mountain. We have many recreational opportunities at state parks. You can camp, fish, hike, boat. This first picture on the left is a trout at Smithgaw Woods, so if you want to go to a trophy trout stream. We have golf, with also foot golf. If you don't know, is where they use a soccer ball with great big holes. And I would like to use my golf ball in those great big holes. It'd be a lot easier. At Jack Hill State Park, we have disc golf at many of our parks, and we have mini golf. All kind of paddling, kayaks, aquacycles, stand-up paddle boards. We have some swimming. We have about 4 pools left. One of the largest in Georgia is Liberty Bell Pool and for FDR State Park. We also have splash pads and a number of beaches that folks enjoy. We have archery and BB shooting ranges at our parks as well. That folks can do that. And you know, dogs are welcome in all our campgrounds, many cottages, and most trails. We have a few preservation trails we don't, but like I said, there's trout fishing at Smithgaw, up the boardwalk at Skidaway Island, biking at Indian Springs, nature boat tours at Stephen C. Foster, hiking at Cloudland Canyon, golf at Meadowlinks at George T. Bagby, and this is Andy the dog at Watson Mill Bridge. It was our manager there. He took pictures of his dog. And this bottom right is a 3D range out at Panola Mountain State Park, which is also our headquarters of state parks, not too far from here. We have 15 historic sites that we manage. And it's a great destination for school groups and homeschoolers. We're getting the school groups back. In COVID, they didn't come, so we're getting them back. We have a campaign now. We're trying to get them back to see us. This is an aerial view on the photos at Fort King George and Darien. We have Wormslow soldiers from the Colonial Fair event, and the Colonial Fair event is this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Wormslow in Chatham County. We have our chief interpreter, Valerie Equine, is training on spinning wheel there. Gerald Plantation is an operating historic farm down in Jones County. We have the print shop at New Echota, which was the capital of the Cherokee Nation. And here's one of the mounds at Etowah, not too far up the highway from us. Just like Thomas said, they try to get to the kids young and teach them about hunter safety and all. We try to teach them about a lot of things in our park ranger programs, mainly our junior ranger camps. We believe that mentoring children should start early, then continue to mentor them through other initiatives like hopefully we hire them and get them into our career academy and our manager and training program, and then our park ranger academy if they become a ranger within our group. But our junior ranger camps are very popular. We have them at 59 of our sites, and we hosted 46 camps last summer. 305 junior rangers attended between the ages of 4 and 14. Their activities included learning how to do archery, paddling, hiking, fishing, and then they had a lot of topics like conservation, wildlife, Georgia history, tree ID, life cycles, and food chains. So it's a great program to get the kids involved, and we hope to get them. We have a DNR Career Academy now that Deputy Commissioner Rabin and Commissioner Williams started, where we're trying to get high school kids to come to work for us too. So it's also a camp we got now. We believe a lot in training, just like the Colonel does. One of our main goals is succession training and planning, because we are getting younger. The ones like me are going away, so we got to get the young ones in. We're growing the next generation of park rangers through natural resource tourism degree programs in our universities. a manager and training program where we hire the folks that come out of these degree programs and give them a year to learn how to be a park ranger. Our Park Ranger Academy, where we train them to be park rangers, and then, like I said, the DNR Leadership, our DNR Leadership Academy, where we take our up-and-coming stars and put them through our Leadership Academy each year. Like I said, we have the DNR Career Academy that we're a big part of, that's trying to get the 9th through 11th grade high school students and get them interested in outdoors before they go into other career paths. We had our first academy last summer, and we're fixing to start our next one up here soon. One of our big programming events that we partner with the National Association of State Parks is our First Day Hikes. So 41 states participated in this year, but here in Georgia we had 47 of our parks that hosted 51 hikes across Georgia. We had 1,800 hikers and 5,700 miles hiked. That's a long ways to hike on the first day. We started this off, and this is a little bit out of order there. We started this off at a candlelight countdown to New Year's Eve on top of Colomoki Mounds. There was no University of Georgia fans there because they were sitting at home hoping that we beat Ohio State, and we did, thank goodness. And then that next morning we started an early sunrise hike at Black Rock Mountain State Park as well. It's a great opportunity. And this year we had 243,000 Facebook posts on this program, the First Day Hikes. We normally have 10 to 20,000, so it was very popular, people wanting to get out. The weather has a lot to do with it. We had good weather and all, even if it's cold, they'll get out and hike. We're doing a lot of ADA improvements at our parks. One of the ones is getting ADA kayak launches. We got one at Hard Labor Creek. We're planning one for Vogel. We have one at George L. Smith. And another thing we're working on is a partnership with Amy Copeland Foundation called All Terrain Georgia, where we started with her and we had 9 action track chairs on our parks. It's been taking about 2 years to get it going. Got it going now, where folks with mobility issues can reserve a track chair and go ride on our trails, just like anybody can walk their trails. And it's a great program. And we also, this past weekend, Commissioner Williams had a directed giving at Weekend for Wildlife, where we'll probably have at least 10 more chairs after this is all said and done, getting them out to all our state parks, our historic sites, our WMAs, and we'll have this opportunity, and we'll be able to move them around for different things. And it's a great opportunity. We've been with Amy Copeland Foundation. Thanks to y'all and the governor, we have a lot of recent improvements going on. We have, like I said, the Fort McAllister, the cottages on stilts, we renovated 1 through 3, and then we got all of them painted in all the wood, so they're all coastal themed now. We got all new cottages at Red Top Mountain. We got 10 new ones at Tugelo, and we're going to get the next 10. We renovated Black Rock Mountain. We've also renovated some at Seminole State Park. Campgrounds, we're working on Vogel. We've just finished Red Top Mountain. We're working on Cloudland. We finished FDR Roosevelt not too long ago. Like I said, Skidaway Island, one of our most popular campgrounds in Savannah, we've got all full hookups, water, sewer, and 30 and 50 amp electric. We're also the yurts are very popular. The folks that don't have a camper and don't want a tent, it's already on a thing there set up with furniture in it. We've got them at several state parks, but the recent ones are 5 new ones at Red Top and 3 brand new ones at Skidaway that are really looking good. Our engineering chief sent me pictures yesterday of Skidaway, and they're really looking good down there. With new visitor centers, we recently have completed a new visitor center at Skidaway State Park. Thanks, Representative Petrie, for helping us that. And Red Top Mountain, we got a brand new group shelter at A.H. Stevens in Crawfordville. We got some new bathhouses at Tugelo, Mistletoe, Fort Mac, Colomoki, Reed Bingham, comfort stations at Hamburg, Mistletoe, and Cloudland. And our ongoing improvements, right now we're working on A.H. Stevens Campground, Cloudland, as I said, and Vogel. We got brand new cottages going in Chat Bend for Madam Chair. Cloudland Canyon, we got a couple that we're adding. We're adding new ones at Fort Yargo State Park, George L. Smith State Park, Magnolia Springs. We're building 5 new ones. We're tearing down and rebuild 5 new ones. We currently got new visitor centers going in at Amicalola Falls and Wormslow, and soon to be at Vogel. And we're also working on the renovation of the Roosevelt historic pools in concert with Friends of Georgia State Parks. Thank you, Representative Buckner. And this is a rendering of Amicalola. You can see it under construction right now, but and Wormslow as well, but and soon to be Vogel. Upcoming, we got our 3rd annual golf cup to, market our golf sites. It's at 8 sites that we have at state parks. It kicks off February 25th and ends June 3rd. Deputy Commissioner Rabin is hoping to win. I think he's got a team there. He's trying to win. Last year, the winners got a trip to Brasstown Valley Resort. So great fun at the golf courses there. Our social media is big. We got over 46 million page views. My social media folks say that's good. I'm not sure how many times I go to them, they count, but 329,000 followers on Facebook, 90,000 followers on Instagram. It's great getting the folks out there, and we can do that. So the last slide is just our park rangers at the park managers meeting up at Lake Lanier Islands, and I'd be happy. Oh, we're not going to take anything, but I'm happy to be here today. So thank y'all.
Kept the parks open during COVID.
Right.
And that was one of the best moves we made. And I think everybody has a personal attachment to some park somewhere in our state. Y'all do a great job.
Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to make a comment. You stole my thunder, but I feel compelled to say this. I want to thank this commissioner and certainly Mr. Count and the Colonel for, yes, keeping our parks open when our folks needed it the most and the world was screaming that we should shut them down, and they were wrong. But moreover, for all the work, Colonel, that y'all did to keep our beaches open and to help us to keep those beaches open so that people could be where they needed to be with their children during this very anxious time. I want to thank you for the leadership, Commissioner. It was great judgment and wisdom. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. With an interim here, what we're going to do is pause briefly. I hope you've had a chance to look over our natural resource rules for this committee. We need to go ahead and review and consider that for a vote if you've had sufficient time.
At the proper time, I'd like to make a motion.
We have is number 21.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what we had a 20. Oh, same. Okay, so you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that we approve the rules for natural resources for 23.
Thank you. We have a second. Any questions? I'll take the ayes and nays. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. There was a question. No. Okay. And any opposed? Nay. All right. Thank you. Now we're official. So can we go back and do everything that we just? And, Chairman Corbett had to leave for another meeting, but we have Mary Frances Williams, who's a member of the committee, and Carla Drenner, I was going to reverse your name there, who's been a long-serving member of the committee. So I think I've caught up with everybody. Okay, well, thank y'all for coming. And moving right along, we're also going to get to EPD.
Yep.
These people are with us pretty much every meeting we do. And if you're like me, this is an area of our committee service that we definitely can brag about. So we're ready for coastal.
Thank you. Madam Chair, just real quickly, Monday you will have in your office a folder and two real important things, and there are a lot of information. One of them is a sheet that's just a one-page sheet that lists all the DNR assets just in your district. How many hunters you have as well, how many licensed fishermen you have, if you have a state park, if you have a WMA, and also you will have a park pass, because we want you to come see our parks. And one of our biggest champions is Representative Roger Bruce. Ask him about, he loves Sweetwater, so, but we hope you'll all use those park passes and take your families out and visit with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner, and members of the committee. My name is Doug Hamons. I have the honor of serving as the Director of the Coastal Resources Division in God's country, as I've heard, on the Georgia coast. Our mission, obviously, is to balance development and protection of the coast natural assets. And you think of a balance, your typical balance, but my running joke is it's more like a vice, because we get caught between development and protection, and it's an interesting place to be sometimes. Now we can stay on this slide, yeah. So We also consider ourselves small but complicated. Our division is 67 people. We're fully staffed, but we have the awesome responsibility of managing both our marshes and our beaches through the Coastal Marshlands Protection Act and the Shoreline Protection Act. In other words, if you are wanting to build a marina, a dock, a private dock, a community dock, or a beach crossover, or do some manipulation to the beaches, you're going to be interacting with us through the permitting process. We also have the responsibility of commercial and recreational saltwater fisheries. And we'll talk a little bit about both of those programs coming up. What we don't do are turtles, whales, dolphins, and such, and so my counterpart Ted will be talking about those in a moment. We get an awful lot of calls about whales and turtles, but they're in wildlife resources. So a few minutes on coastal management section, 29 employees in that section. We have coastal ocean and management work unit there. And primarily, I'm just going to hit a couple of those: green growth and coastal resiliency. We work with local communities to develop low-impact developments along the coast to help prepare them to be resilient to storms, and also to help prepare them to come back after a storm has passed. Another example would be our coastal incentive grants. We get about $2 million a year through a NOAA grant that we pass on, about half of that to the local communities. Those things pay for anything from research on the coast to helping develop a community education center on the coast. We also, within that work unit, have the shellfish and water quality unit. Water quality, we sample the beaches, our swimming beaches, every week of the month, every month of the year, and we sample our shellfish beds every month as well in order to keep those open. I know that shellfish has been a popular topic over the past couple of years. It is a slow process. We have 6 new subtitle leases been issued. Those 6 individuals are still waiting on their core permits. I wish I could tell you when we would put cages in the water. I thought this spring, but we'll see. So, next one, please. Also in the coastal management section is marsh and shore management and compliance and enforcement. And this is really where the rubber meets the road for most of that unit's work. And again, this is the permitting section, and this is the enforcement and compliance of those permits. Briefly, our marine fishery section is broken into research and surveys and data and statistics, independent and dependent. We collect a lot of data, and we also collect data from the fishermen. So that's independent data versus dependent. We do trawl work. I think a lot of you have been to Coastal Resources Division and avail yourselves of the opportunity to go out on a trawl with us and see some of the things we do there. Also long line work for red drum and sharks, a lot of gill netting, things like that. A vessel support unit, we're very appreciative of the bonds that you guys have been able to provide us over the last several years to update our large vessel fleet, both the 56-foot Reed Harris and the 54-foot Reed Harris and the I'll forget it. Anyway, we have 2 new large vessels, and I appreciate it very much. Also in that work unit, marine fisheries, is our artificial reef and boating and fishing access units. And I can't say thank you enough for the 2016 legislation that you passed that got us to go fish habitat tag. That habitat tag, again, we're mainly appealing to individuals on the coast. Fulton County's got a lot of them because of the number. But in this past month of January, from April 17th, the month of January, we just crossed $1 million. And so that's bought several ships and an awful lot of concrete. I'll give you a quick example. We right now have 13,000 tons of concrete culvert sitting in Rincon. That is free, except for the fact that I've got to truck it from Rincon to the Port of Savannah, put it on a barge, take it offshore, deploy it, and that's $300,000. Without this, I would have had to pass on that $300,000 or on that 13,000 tons of concrete. So it's been very helpful. You'll see the 17 inshore and 28 offshore reefs. That material is constantly going to those different reefs. Boating and fishing access. We maintain 42 boating and fishing access sites along just the 6 coastal counties. And speaking of which, I failed to mention in the opening slide that we're responsible for the 11 coastal counties, 652,000 folks, 105 miles of beaches, 368,000 square miles of marsh, that sort of thing. So, also within marine fisheries, next slide, yeah. We want to always make sure that you understand that fish don't adhere to political boundaries. Georgia's fish don't just stay in Georgia. Red drum travel to South Carolina, they travel to Florida, they travel offshore. Triple tail, they'll go as far as North Carolina. Black drum on up into the Mid-Atlantic. So we work collectively with other groups such as the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission and the South Atlantic Fishery Management Council to develop our regulations and policies. We also feel very strongly about citizen involvement, and so we have several advisory panels that we maintain, multiple meetings per year to get input from the citizenry. Our last work unit is something that's it's administrative work unit, 8 employees there. I will point out at the bottom of that, the Coast Fest event is our outreach event. Coast Fest is part of our education campaign every year, so it falls under administration. We have moved it to Earth Day this year, April 22nd, at Mary Ross Park in downtown Brunswick. If you find yourself in Brunswick or you want a good reason to come to Brunswick, I encourage you to come to Coast Fest, April 22nd. A brief note about funding. Again, we're small but complicated. We have about $8.5 million on an annual our budget, but a third of that comes from federal sources. We have over 20 federal grants that we juggle each and every year, and so we are certainly appreciative of our federal partners as well as the state. And with that, I will conclude. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Also, a resource been brought in for incidents around the coast, such as the Golden Ray and what happened there. So appreciate that. Yes.
Just wanted to say, Doug, we moved Coast Fest because we were just having to deal with that with hurricane season, and we just had 2 years we couldn't have it, and so we moved it to the spring. So come down and join 10,000 other of your fellow Georgians. It's very well attended, and it's a great event.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's...
All right. Hold on. I have a new member who wishes to make one quick comment, so go ahead, sir.
I apologize, Madam Chair. I was going to just echo what they said about Coast Fest. It's a great time. If you have a chance to go, please go. They do an amazing job with it.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. Let's go to wildlife.
Thank you. My name is Ted Will. I'm the Director of Wildlife Resources Division. And today I'll have the difficult task in a short order of kind of Commissioner mentions the breadth and depth of what our department does and our division. We're part of that wide span of duties. So first off, our core mission is to promote and conserve fishing, hunting, and wildlife resources throughout the state through primarily management, education, and research. So, you know, it's difficult when you're looking at the types of things that we do on a day-to-day basis. So throughout the state, from running ferries on Sapelo Island to if we're responding here in Atlanta to an urban wildlife nuisance call, to a variety of tasks, I will primarily speak to what generally we highlight each year on our primary duties. So as far as our primary facilities, we have 125 wildlife management areas throughout the state, totaling a little over 1.1 million acres. There's a lot happening on that property. That in itself is a huge task. A lot of activities, a lot of management ongoing on those areas. We have 11 public fishing areas, around 130 water bodies on those 11 public fishing areas, intensive management on those properties, around 800,000 visitors just on those public fishing areas. We have 10 fish hatcheries across the state. Production of fish is a huge, important function of our division. One of those, for example, up in North Georgia, we have 3 cold water fish hatcheries producing trout. We don't have, in our state, we don't really have a trout fishery for the public unless we're there producing and stocking those fish into our waters. And that's certainly public opportunity. So we also have warm water hatcheries as well. They're producing things like striped bass, hybrid striped bass. Those fisheries do not exist in reservoirs in and around our state if we're not there producing and stocking those fish. And there's plenty of other fish we're producing and stocking as well. We have a boating access team of four crew, go around the state, build boat ramps, renovate boat ramps. We have 168 boat ramps we're maintaining currently. Public shooting ranges, It's a certainly growth area. Target shooting we're seeing growth there. So we're investing into that. We have 47 shooting ranges. Those are archery, some certainly rifle, pistol, and some shotgun ranges as well. We have education centers throughout the state, so we're proud of those. Charlie Elliott is our premier facility. I hope everyone has a chance to visit that and welcome you to visit there. But we have some other great facilities around the state. And, again, I already mentioned management on wildlife management areas. You have 500,000 acres of public reservoir water bodies that people fish in the state, and it's a tremendous resource for us. And then plenty of miles and rivers, and it's just beautiful. Madam Chair, you mentioned that God blessed this state as a whole, from the mountains to the coast. There is not one person. I mean, we have over 4,000 unique species that we really have responsibility for our department in our state. A lot of those are plant species, but many of those are all, species we don't typically think about, and that's where our wildlife conservation section comes into play. And that's extremely important. I mean, they're created for a reason, and we have that oversight to make sure we have those species in the future. And so anyway, let me move on quickly. So I just wanted to, again, I've already mentioned the importance of who we serve. Our core constituents are anglers, over 1 million anglers in the state, 750,000 hunters plus. Plenty of people love wildlife viewing. Target shooting is growing. You can see that. It's a huge economic impact. $7 million on average, $7 million in retail sales each day is spent in the state. So it's, 2.5 billion each year. And when I'm talking retail, this isn't those other funny numbers that they expand out. So funding for our division, primarily federal. 50% of our funds are federal. We have other resources, those that, Madam Chair, that were able to join us at Weekend for Wildlife understand we bring in donations, and that's what funds our wildlife conservation section, along with license plate tags, critically important there. Certainly bond funds and other, projects. We have a lot of other funding that comes into our division. We tout that hunting and fishing license. We run off of federal and hunting and fishing license is critically important. We're proud of that revenue, proud of the user pay, user benefit model that we run. And we certainly have a little bit of funding there, that we expense to general state funds as well. Now, license revenue, just wanted to mention, I think we talked about COVID and the impact there. We certainly saw a bump during COVID. We were glad to see people getting outdoors more. The good news is we have not seen a huge decrease from that at this point. We've seen a slight dip, but we're still in that 33, 34 million in license revenue each year. So that's significant. We're proud of that. And we've seen that the same trend in hunting and fishing licenses that we certify. So that same trend has been stable. Our license plate tags has been stable, so all that's good news. As far as highlights for 2022, our 2 trout facilities up in North Georgia, we've had some major renovations there. We are on track to stock 1 million trout this year, so we're proud of that. We had a renovation down in Dawson for warm water hatchery facility, and we had 5 state record fish this year. So that was really good news for us. Others, one huge management practice that we perform on our public lands is prescribed fire. For the 2nd year in a row, our staff have dug down and broke the record for prescribed fire on the ground. That's over 75,000 acres. It's critically important to the species that we're trying to manage on those properties and the habitat that we're producing there. Visitation, our education centers is going up, 94,000 last year. We added 11,000, a little over 11,000 acres to Ceylon Wildlife Management Area down on the coast, important area there. Some other interesting tidbits, alligators. Again, harvest rates continue to increase each year. Record number of bald eagle nest counts last year, record number of loggerhead sea turtle counts last year. So those are all really good things. So with that, well, that's it. Anything for you? Good?
On behalf of all the committee members, I think we can certainly see that you and your leadership team you've developed definitely identify and have a passion for natural resources in Georgia. So we thank you for that.
Thank you,
very
Madam Chair. I'm
much.
going to leave and turn it over to Director Dunn.
All right, thank you. We've only given you 2 minutes. No, I'm
I'm
joking.
gonna
You
go-
ta-
I'm gonna
take
go really fast.
No, you're okay. I
Yeah.
just checked. We don't have a rules
Okay,
today, so you've
okay.
got some time.
You're
So,
good. Thank you,
thank
Madam
you very
Chair.
much.
Members of the committee, Rick Dunn, Director of the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. It's a pleasure to be here. If I can go to the next slide, please. Just very briefly, who we are. EPD is the state agency charged with protecting Georgia's air, land, and water resources through the authority of various statutes, both state and federal. We implement and administer about 24 statutes passed by this body. We also have full permitting and enforcement authority for all of the major federal environmental laws, such as Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, RCRA, and the like. We regulate utilization of our air, water, and land resources to protect public health and to promote economic growth, recreation, and ecology. We're primarily a regulatory agency. We take the statutes, pass rules implementing those statutes, and enforce those rules. We also administer 2 trust funds. We do some licensing of some professionals. We maintain an emergency response capacity to respond to the release of hazardous substances on a 24/7 basis, and we operate a laboratory to ensure compliance with state and federal environmental regulations. Next slide, please. Just very briefly, I think it's important to understand the sense of our funding. We have a fairly small budget. It's very, as others have said, it can be complex. There's 50 different funding sources. I'll just mention our largest funding sources are what we call other funds. These are fees collected and retained by the agency. It's about 42% of our funding. Our state funding is about 36% at $48 million, and we do receive federal funding as well at 22%. I'll also mention that we do collect fees that we do not retain but remit back to the federal treasury. Last year, those were $34 million. So if you all set that with our state funds, we operate with about $14 million in taxpayer funds. Next slide. Just our organization, we're fully staffed. We have about 700 full-time employees. 80% of those employees are environmental specialists, engineers, geologists, lab scientists, or modelers. You can see there we operate 3 branches, air, land, and water branches, roughly equal size. We have 7 district offices located throughout the state. They handle many complaint investigations, emergency response, inspection, and compliance activities. I mentioned our lab that's out in Peachtree Corners in Gwinnett County, and we also operate an agricultural water permitting office in Tifton and Dawson. Can I get the next slide? Just briefly, there's 22 years of expenditures from EPD, and you can see we're been fairly in a flat range. I go to the next slide. Just in terms of how we spend our money, our largest object class is personal services, and our second largest class is contracts, which both of those combined are almost 80% of how we spend our funds. I can get the next slide. I just want to say a word. Spoke a lot the past few years of agency staffing and turnover. You see a chart here. The bars are the number of employees, authorized positions, and the line there is our turnover rate. I mentioned before, over 80% of our employees are what we call STEM professionals. There's a lot of competition for those professionals. Other federal agencies, local agencies, other state agencies, as well as the private sector and consulting groups. So we're in a big competition for talent. We have struggled with turnover the past few years. Last year, our turnover rate was almost 20%. I've got some stats on there. That adds up. If you experience turnover a couple years, it starts to really add up. I wanted to mention our employee count is down about 200 since the GFC, Great Financial Crisis. We don't need new employees. I think we've got the adequate number of employees. What is important, that we have the quality of employees that can execute on their responsibilities. And again, that has been a challenge. Some good news, the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we experienced 61 separations. Most of those are, of course, non-retirement. Compared to this time last year, it was 81, so we're on a better track. And our vacancy rate this time last year was 14%. It's down to 7%. If I can get the next slide. And I think the reason for that improvement is the resources we put into additional salaries last year. As I said, pay is our big challenge. Last year we invested $8.3 million in salaries, and that's helping us certainly with our turnover rate and certainly our ability to recruit new employees. We're not quite where we need to be. We don't need to be up to market, but we need to be at least competitive to the market. And we're getting closer. Certainly the $2,000 will help, but we've got just a little more ways to go. If I can get the next slide. Also, Madam Chair, you want me to talk about the Twin Pines Saunders Mine in Charlton County. It's about, the proposed spot for the mine is about 3 miles from the southeast corner of the Okefenokee Wildlife Refuge. 3 miles from the southeast corner of the refuge. You may have, I know members of this committee is very knowledgeable of this project. It's been back and forth in terms of whether the federal government is going to assert jurisdiction under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. They have declined to do so, so it is in our camp to evaluate the proposal. There are 4 state permits needed for the Twin Pine projects. This would have been true whether they were under federal jurisdiction or not. There's a water withdrawal permit for 1.44 MGDs, million gallons per day from the Florida Aquifer. There's a construction and industrial stormwater permit. Those are not permits that are reviewed by us. Those are general permits. So you apply for the permit, you agree to abide by its conditions. There's an air permit as well as a surface mining permit. I will note that the initial application was, I think, roughly for 12,000 acres. We're working with a reduced footprint, 735 acres. Almost 600 of those acres are expected to be mined. As part of the Surface Mining Act, Georgia Surface Mining Act passed by this General Assembly, before a permit can be issued, the applicant must provide a mining land use plan to be approved by the agency. It must be approved by the agency before the permit is issued. And a mining land use plan basically describes the mining process, how erosion and sedimentation will be controlled, how the land will be reclamated once the mining process is complete. And for this project, the mining land use plan must identify any impact to Georgia's natural resources and how those impacts may be mitigated. If I can get the next slide. And Madam Chair, this is my last slide, but I wanted to show kind of the process of the permit consideration process. Obviously, the first step is the permit applications are received. We've obviously completed that step. Next stage is, which we've been in really for the past 18 months, is the internal review of these applications for adequacy and completeness. And there was a lot of work going back and forth about the hydrological impact of the seepage into the pit, as well as the groundwater withdrawal. A lot of working with the applicant in terms of their water management plan, as well as the replacing the soils that are going to be mined to ensure it has the same hydrological connectivity. So we completed that, and on January 19th, we placed, not the permit, but the mining land use plan. I mentioned before that we have to approve a mining land use plan. We put a draft mining land use plan out for 60 days of public review and comment. We are in that process now. That runs through March the 20th. We will also host 2 virtual public meetings associated with that mining land use plan on February 21st and the 23rd. When that process is complete, when the public notice process of the mining land use plan is complete, we will take all comments, of course, review those comments, determine if any changes in the mining land use plan needs to be made, and then we will finalize the mining land use plan and then work on permits and permit conditions. We're handling all of those permits that I mentioned before as a group, so they're not going to be a period to review the air permit, a period to review the water withdrawal. They're all going to be considered as a group, which I think is the best way to consider that. We will release those and also have an additional public comment period on those proposed permits. Again, you go back, evaluate the comments, determine if any changes need to be made to the permit, and those permits will be finalized. And of course, as with any EPD action, all our actions are subject to judicial appeal or judicial review as well. So, Madam Chair, I know I went a little over my time, but that's where we are in the process.
No, we really appreciate it.
Mhm.
We can't see the slides from where we're sitting, but is there information for the committee members to share with
Yeah.
their constituents for public comment?
Certainly, I'll be happy to send you or David some material. I did put some copies of the presentation.
Okay.
If I don't have enough, I will certainly share copies of the presentation.
Okay,
and
I
get
think
those to
most
David
of our
as well.
committee members will want to be able to help the people they serve if they wish to make public comments. And so,
Certainly.
thank you for that. And then, let's see, also, so we have no questions from the committee, but for our committee members, we'll not test you on all this information. There is a lot to absorb. We will be sending out all to our email accounts, all these slide presentations today, so you'll have it. And these people are available to us as well as other legislators. So it's a great group of folks to work with. As you can see, their jobs are challenging, but we respect and appreciate y'all. So yes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I failed to introduce Major Bob Holly,
Oh, hey.
who's been helping us this morning, and I just overlooked him, but he's
No, I saw him as Vanna White for you, so you did really well. So we noticed you, but thank you. Okay, and before we adjourn, we really have to adjourn right at 9 o'clock usually because of rules. But for this point, I will take one question. I see number 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a previous speaker who spoke about the ranger programs. I think you talked about high school programs and then maybe programs for younger children. Can you share that information with us so we can let our constituents know how to apply?
Yes, it's a program we started. We had our inaugural class this summer. It's a resident program. It lasts a week. It's 9th through 12th graders, but we try to catch them early. What we're trying to do is get to these students before their high school counselors do and help them make a decision to work for DNR. So they'll spend 3 nights at Charlie Elliott. We'll bus them down to the coast. They stay at our newly renovated 4-H center down there, and so they interact with all the divisions. They actually go out on the lakes and go in patrol boats and write tickets to actors we have staged on the lake. They get to do bat surveys. They get to go sea turtle work at night. And we had our 25 students. I think we've got 24. I mean, we have to have an even number because we're bunk bedding. But those students have been selected for this year. Walter, the application process starts in October, and it's on our website. And I'm not good at quoting all those .coms, but be glad to answer any questions about that. But this class has been chosen. Hopefully, our next cycle we'll be able to do 2 classes and do 48 because we have hundreds of applicants this past year, but throughout this state, as you can imagine, once word got out.
Thank you. And I know we also have some of our colleges and universities that have the programs that train the people that you need. So thank you.
And we have college night. And they all come in and do their presentations and set up their booth and talk to these students trying to recruit them.
Thank you. One last question very quickly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask a similar question. You said there was a junior ranger camper program as well, and it was 4 to 14. Is that correct?
Well, that's the age of the students this past year, but we'll take them anywhere in that range, and they come into our sites. There's a junior ranger program at camp at a lot of our sites, and I'll be glad to get you information.
Thank you.
I think this information would be appreciated by all the committee members. Again, I hope the people watching this, and I know our committee, I can tell by your expressions that I think we're all proud to serve on this committee and to understand and know our state so much better. So we thank you very much.